Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I clocked in that Thursday afternoon just as the sharp Kansas wind rattled the Taco Bell sign outside. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, glaring down on the spotless counters and the swirling scent of seasoned taco meat. 2 months on the Bayao job, and I was still trying to get used to the rhythms of this place, the predictable chaos of rush hour, the awkward quiet at closing time, the soft hum of the freezers dragging out a slow, mournful song behind the kitchen. Eli, my coworker, was manning the front cash register, throwing out witty jokes to customers like he was trying to break the monotony racking up on us. Eli was from Topeka. Tall, lean, always had that quiet confidence from growing up chasing dreams in a small town before coming to the city. He'd been working here for 2 years, proud of his Employee of the Month plaques, but lately, something was off about him. He wasn't his usual upbeat self. Customers would complain about long waits, and instead of shrugging it off, Eli would snap back or stare coldly, like they were testing him. At first, we chalked it up to a rough, weak family stuff, better days ahead, but his eyes kept darkening with resentment every day I came in. The quiet after the lunch rush was my favorite time. The hum of the street outside, the smell of deep-fried mystery meat mingling with cleaning solutions, and the low chatter between the crew. I found Eli behind the drink machine, staring at the mixer like it held answers. "Hey, Eli," I said, sliding beside him, trying to keep things casual. He didn't look up. "You feel it?" he muttered. "Feel what?" "The way everyone's been looking at us like we're just here to take their money and smile for the camera, like we mean nothing." I frowned. "That's just customer service. You know, it's not personal." He laughed, dry and hollow. "Not personal? You're damn lucky you think that." I clipped a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "Talk to me, man. This isn't like you." He glanced at me finally. The usual warmth in his eyes was sharp and sudden. "They don't care," he whispered. "Not really." The jingle of the drive-through sign pulled my attention, and a family of 4 shuffled inside, ready for their Friday night feast. But Eli's mood was a shadow falling over the bright yellow walls. Days later, a second shift rolled in, bringing Lena to the kitchen. She was a firecracker, quick-footed, razor-sharp, with hands that could whip up queso softer than Kentucky butter. But even she wasn't immune to what was creeping in. I found her in the back corner by the grill, trembling so badly she dropped a spatula twice. "You okay, Lena?" I asked, voice pulled taut with concern. She turned, eyes wide and wild, and nearly dropped the knife she was clutching. "I saw it again," she breathed. "That shadow in the freezer room, it was watching." I blinked, tilting my head. "Watching like a person?" "No, not quite." She swallowed hard. "Like something else. Something moving just on the edge." Her breath hitched, like she was trying to capture smoke. I swallowed too, because things were no longer just funny moods or bad weeks. "Maybe you need to take a break," I said, trying to sound reasonable. She shook her head fiercely. "No breaks. Not until it's gone." It was Sarah, our no-nonsense manager, who spotted the first real sign. She was testing the ice machine late that night when she noticed a dark stain stretching up the back wall, like a black vein climbing between the tiles. Curious, she moved the freezer. What she found beneath was like the roots of some underground beast, a patch of black mold, veiny, sprawling, unnatural. The sight was worse than any health inspector's nightmare. We shut the place down immediately. Experts came. They suited up in hazmat gear, mumbling about rare fungal strains that gave off spores invisible to the eye. The words hit like a punch. Prolonged exposure caused irritability, rage, paranoia, hallucinations, the perfect storm of madness. Eli's sudden outbursts, Lena's terror, none of it random. The Taco Bell didn't just serve up tacos. It was serving us the monster. Continue. The night after the closure, I couldn't sleep. The images of Eli's sunken eyes and Lena's trembling hands haunted me. My mind kept racing back to that black mold, the way it was almost alive, crawling beneath the walls. I thought about how every shift, every hour spent in that place, might have been slowly poisoning us all. By morning, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Hey, did you hear anything from the others?" she asked, voice tight. "No, nothing. It's like they vanished." I rubbed my temples. I'm worried sick. We shut down the place, but that darkness, it's like it's followed us. Clem called me last night. He's Eli's brother. Eli's been admitted, freaking out, talking about shadows on the walls. The name Clem tipped the knot in my stomach tighter. Eli wasn't just tired anymore. Something was wrong deep inside him. "We need to find out what the hell we got ourselves into," I said. Later that week, I met up with Clem at a quiet coffee shop off Main. He was a rugged guy, with a patchy beard and soft eyes. He held memories of Eli I didn't know. "He wasn't himself the last call I got," Clem said quietly. Said the freezer room whispered his name. Said the mold, he called it the dark curl, was alive. I leaned back, trying to weave sense out of the nightmare. "That thing messed with his head," Clem continued. "He saw stuff, heard voices. The world blurred. All the strange fog wrapping around our Taco Bell jobs suddenly turned into something sinister, something real. Back at my apartment at the edge of town, I stared at the walls as shadows flickered from passing headlights. I thought about Lena pacing the freezer like she wanted to fight a ghost. About Eli trapped inside his own mind. The next day, Sarah called again. She'd gotten the hazmat report. The mold was a species so rare scientists hadn't cataloged it properly. Spores were more than just irritants, they were neurotoxins. We weren't just working at Taco Bell. We were prisoners breathing poison. No one in town believed it until the news broke. Restaurants were closing, health inspectors shuttering buildings. After more cases of paranoia, aggressive outbursts and hallucinations traced back to similar mold outbreaks. The town's taco joint became a symbol, a reminder that monsters don't always lurk in shadows or dark forests. Sometimes they hide, behind fluorescent lights and cheap taco shells, creeping silent, invisible, and deadly. Months later, Eli and Lena still hadn't come back. The mystery deepened, and the mold had been eradicated, or so they said. But when I passed that empty lot at night, the wind howling through the cracked windows, I swear I can still see the dark veins moving beneath the floor, moving toward the edges, waiting. I hated Thursdays, not because of the crowds or the late-night shifts, but because of him. I'd been working at Rico's Tacos and Grill for 7 months, a small roadside Tex-Mex joint on the outskirts of Springfield, Missouri. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent. I'd graduated community college with a degree in communications that hadn't gotten me anywhere, so this place became my stopgap. Only, it never stopped gapping. The smell of burnt oil and overused fryers clung to my uniform like a curse. Every shift felt like déjà vu. The same orders, the same playlist that looped 20 songs from 2015. The same flickering neon sign outside that buzzed "open late," like it was begging for mercy. And every Thursday at exactly 3 p.m., the same man walked in. We didn't even have a name for him at first. My coworkers called him Creeper Carl, though I later found out that wasn't his real name. He always came in wearing a gray jacket and a faded baseball cap, head slightly down, eyes hidden beneath the brim. His steps were slow, deliberate, like each one had been planned before he took it. He always ordered the same thing, a fiesta, crunch wrap, a side of churro bites, and a large Baja Blast to go. The first few times I didn't think much of it. People have routines, but then came the comments. "Hey, sweetheart," he'd say in that low, gravelly drawl. "You work too hard to be frowning like that." I'd force a polite smile, keep my voice neutral. "Just doing my job, sir. What can I get you today?" His lips curled into what might have been a smile, or maybe just a habit. "You already know." He lingered too long at the counter, fingers drumming on the surface like he was counting something. Then every single time he'd go to the restroom. 2 or 3 minutes, tops. Then he'd pick up his food and leave. Always the same rhythm, always the same unease in my stomach afterward, I started timing it once, 3 minutes and 27 seconds every Thursday. Maybe he's got, stomach problems. Lindsay, my coworker, joked one day, flicking her ponytail back as she cleaned the soda machine. Like IBS or something. Or maybe he just likes your face, Troy, the fry cook added with a smirk. You're his favorite part of Taco Thursday. Real funny, I muttered, trying not to show how much it bothered me. But I couldn't shake it. The way he looked at me, like he already knew something about me I didn't. The weeks rolled by, Thursday after Thursday. Sometimes I tried to avoid the front register, pretending to restock napkins or handle drive-through orders, but somehow I always ended up face-to-face with him again. One Thursday, after he left, I went to the restroom to clean up before closing. The light flickered like it always did, and I muttered under my breath, "Gotta tell maintenance about that." When I looked up, I noticed something odd, a tiny circular hole near the top of the vent above the sink. It was small, no bigger than a pencil eraser. Probably nothing, I told myself. Probably old building stuff. Rico's had been around since the early 90s before the place was a taco joint. It used to be a motel diner, the kind that rented rooms by the hour. Still, I mentioned it to Troy as he counted the register. "Hey, the bathroom vent looks weird. Think it's clogged or something?" He shrugged. "Maintenance guy's not in till Monday, probably just dust or a spider nest. You're overthinking." Maybe I was. But the next Thursday, I started paying attention. Creeper Carl came in. Same time, same order. He made small talk. "So, you like working here?" I didn't look up. "It's a job." He chuckled softly. "You got dreams, huh? You look like someone who's got a lot going on upstairs." My skin prickled. "Order'll be right up, sir." He winked. "Take your time, sweetheart." When he went to the restroom, I watched the seconds tick by on the clock. 3 minutes and 25 seconds. He came out, grabbed his food, and left. That night, when we closed up, I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and looked at the vent again. My phone flashlight caught a faint reflection, something metallic. My heart skipped. I leaned closer and saw it. A tiny red light blinking deep inside the vent. "What the hell?" I whispered. I wanted to think it was part of the ventilation system. But it wasn't. It looked like a camera. I didn't touch it that night. I just went home, lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and replayed every Thursday in my mind. The bathroom, the vent, him. The next morning, I told Lindsay. She laughed at first. "Girl, that's creepy as hell. Maybe it's just a sensor or something." "No, it's too small, and it's pointed straight down. You should tell Rico," she said. I nodded. "Yeah, I will." But when I told Rico, our manager, he brushed it off. "Nah, we don't have any cameras in there. Against company policy. Probably a sensor for the air system. You're stressing yourself for no reason." I didn't believe him. That night, I came in early before my shift and checked the vent again. The red light was gone. Just gone. The next Thursday, I couldn't focus. Every sound made me jump. The fryer timer, the door chime, even the hiss of the soda machine. When he walked in, I froze. "Hey there, sunshine," he said, same smirk, same unsettling calmness. "How's my favorite taco girl?" "Fine," I replied tightly. "What can I get you?" "Same as always. Don't pretend you don't remember." He placed his money on the counter, and I noticed his hand trembling slightly. His nails were short, clean. There was a faint scar across his wrist, like an old cut. After he went to the restroom, I told Lindsay, "I'm checking, right now," or she blinked. "Wait, what?" But I was already moving. When he came out and left, I grabbed a ladder from the back, heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. I unscrewed the vent cover. Inside, tucked against the metal, was a small black cube. A camera, definitely. Wires snaked through the vent toward the wall. "Holy crap," Lindsay whispered. "Is that—" I pulled it out and turned it over in my hand. There was an SD card slot on the side. I didn't even think. I pulled the card out, shoved it in my pocket, and later that night, when the restaurant emptied, I took it home. When I finally loaded it into my laptop. I almost threw up. The folder was labeled Rico's Thursdays. There were dozens, maybe hundreds, of video files, each dated by week, each labeled by time. The footage was from the restroom, customers, kids, employees, me. I slammed the laptop shut, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I called Lindsay right away. "You need to come over." When she arrived and I showed her, her face went pale. "Jesus Christ, we need to call the cops." We did. I told them everything, the routine, the vent, the man. They sent an officer over that night and took the SD card as evidence. They told me to call if he came back again. They said they'd monitor the place. The next Thursday, I showed up early. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stay home. The idea of him coming back and acting like nothing happened made me sick. 2 unmarked police cars sat quietly in the parking lot. I pretended not to notice, and so did Lindsay. At 3 sharp, he came. Same gray jacket. Same smirk. Same routine. He ordered, made small talk, and went to the restroom. I saw one of the plainclothes officers nudge the other. 3 minutes and 24 seconds later, he walked out, calm as ever, carrying his to-go bag. That's when the officer stepped in. "Sir, can we talk to you for a second?" He froze, blinking slowly. "What's this about?" "Step outside, sir." They escorted him out quietly, like it was nothing, like it wasn't a monster they were leading away. Later that evening, Detective Hollis came back to talk to me. She was mid-40s, sharp eyes, didn't waste words. "They found more in his apartment," she said. "Hidden cameras, hard drives, memory cards. He's been doing this for months, maybe years." I felt my throat close. "Just here?" "Not just here," she said quietly. 3 other restaurants. Same setup, always Thursdays. I swallowed hard. "Why Thursdays?" She sighed. "No idea. Maybe routine, maybe obsession." When she left, I sat in the break room for a long time, staring at the empty soda cups piled in the trash. The restaurant was too quiet. The fryer hum sounded like static. The smell of grease made me nauseous. That was my last shift. I quit the next day. Told Rico I couldn't do it anymore. He didn't argue. Maybe he understood. It's been a year since then. I work at a bookstore now, quiet, clean, normal. But every Thursday at 3 p.m., I still feel that drop in my stomach. Like I'm back behind that counter, handing over his receipt, pretending I don't notice his eyes on me. Sometimes when I lock up the shop and walk past the restroom, I still look at the vents, just in case. Because the thing about people like him, the thing nobody tells you, is that they don't look like monsters. They look like regular customers. They smile. They order food. They blend in until you stop looking. But I'll never stop looking again. Not on Thursdays. Not ever. I never planned on staying in Ridgeview. It was the kind of town you only stopped in when your gas tank was empty and your luck was worse. 1 main road, 3 bars, a half-dead strip mall, and a Taco Bell that never closed because nothing else in town was worth staying open for. When my old job at the distribution center laid everyone off, I needed something, anything, to keep my rent from eating me alive. So when the manager at that Taco Bell offered me the night shift supervisor spot, I said yes before he even told me the pay. I didn't care about the rumors then. I should have. The locals said weird stuff happened out by the highway, where the restaurant sat now. It used to be the site of the Ridgeview Motor Lodge, a hotel that burned down in the late 70s. 23 people died in that fire, including the owner and his family. The place was flattened, paved over, and franchised into a taco joint sometime in the early 2000s. Folks joked that the ghosts of the hotel guests probably still wanted room service. I laughed the first time I heard that. But laughter doesn't mean you're not scared. My first night was colder than it should have been for June. The humidity stuck to my neck, but the air inside felt like a freezer. The crew was small. Just Ray, a wiry 20-something who'd rather scroll TikTok than mop floors, and Marissa, a single mom who worked double shifts and looked like she'd been doing this job since before I was born. Ray flipped his cap backward. "Yo, you the new night boss?" "Yeah." I said, trying to sound confident. Call me Eli. Marissa barely looked up from the register. Welcome to hell, honey. I chuckled, half nervous. Appreciate the warm welcome. You'll see what I mean? She punched a few buttons on the POS. When it gets quiet here, that's when it gets weird. Weird how? Ray grinned. Voices in the drive-thru. Doors slam. Equipment turns on by itself. I rolled my eyes. Let me guess, haunted? Marissa didn't smile. Something like that. By 11, the rush had died. A thunderstorm rolled through, lightning flashing behind the drive-thru sign. The smell of rain and fryer grease mixed like something toxic. Ray, I said, check the stockroom before we close. He disappeared into the back, a few minutes. Later, I heard him call out, Yo, did one of y'all move the boxes? Marissa looked at me. I shrugged. Ray stepped out, pale. They were stacked normal, right? Now they're all, pushed forward. I walked back there myself. The heavy crates of taco shells had shifted at least 2 feet from the wall. The floor was smooth, no slope. Probably the vibration from the freezer, I said, though. My voice cracked halfway through. Marissa gave a short, humorless laugh. Sure, the freezer. Then the drive-thru headset crackled. Welcome to Taco Bell, I said automatically. But there was no reply, just static. Then, faintly, under the hiss of white noise, came a voice. Room 12 needs towels. Ray yanked. His headset off. Nope, I'm not doing this. I stared at the monitor. No cars. The lane was empty. Could be a prank, I muttered. CB radio, frequency bleed. Marissa interrupted, whispering. There wasn't a room 12 in this building, Eli. She was right. There used to be one in the old hotel. Around 1:30, the smell hit us. Smoke. Old smoke. Like burned wood. Soaked with mildew. Ray coughed. You smell that? Check the kitchen, I said, but everything was off. The fryers, the warmers. Cold. Then the overhead lights flickered once. Twice. And went out. Emergency lights hummed on, casting, everything in dull red glow. Breakers in the back, I said, grabbing my phone flashlight. Ray shook his head. Man, don't go back there alone. Marissa crossed her arms. He's the boss. Let him. I didn't appreciate the sarcasm, but I went anyway. The hallway behind the prep line was narrow, lined with chrome shelves. My shoes squeaked on the tile as I passed the walk-in. Halfway to the breaker box, I froze. Something moved in the reflection of the metal door, just behind me. A shape. I turned. Nothing there. Then a whisper. Check out time. The hair on my arms rose. I spun back and saw the faintest smudge of soot across the walk-in handle, like a handprint dragged down. When I returned, Ray and Marissa were arguing. I told you this place ain't right, Ray said. Marissa slammed, her palm on the counter. You think I don't know that? I just need the paycheck. I cut them off. Power's fine. Let's finish cleaning and go. But when I flipped the switch, the lights stayed dead. By 2 a.m., we gave up on the registers and worked under our phone lights. The smell of smoke came and went, sometimes strong enough to make my eyes water. Then the drive-thru bell chimed. Ray jumped. No way. I looked at the monitor. Empty again. Then the bell chimed twice more, slower. Marissa whispered, They're calling for service. What the hell does that mean? I asked. She didn't answer. She was staring through the kitchen. Window toward the lobby, Eli, she said softly. Look, there was someone, or something, standing by the dining room counter. A man in a suit back turned to us, still as stone. Sir, we're closed, I called out. He didn't move. I took a step forward. My flashlight beam shook slightly as I raised it. He wasn't standing. He was hanging, feet inches above the floor, head tilted to one side, rope fading into nothing. Then, gone. The flashlight flickered. My stomach dropped. Ray cursed under his breath. I'm out, bro. and bolted for the door. Marissa shouted after him, "Don't go outside." Not till. Too late. The door slammed behind him. We heard him scream once, then silence. I ran to the door, yanking at the handle. Locked, jammed from the inside. "Ray," I yelled. No answer. Marissa's voice trembled. "He's gone." "How? Do you know?" She looked at me, tears streaking her face. "Because I've seen it before. I told you. They don't let anyone leave till they're done." "Done with what?" Her lips parted, but before she could answer, the fryer hissed. Behind us, though it was still unplugged, hot oil bubbled up, smoke filling the air. A shape began to form in the haze, charred hands pressing against the steel lid, like someone trapped inside. Marissa screamed. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the back exit, kicking the bar. It burst open this time, slamming into the dumpster outside. We stumbled into the rain, gasping. The night air tasted like iron and ash. I looked back. Through the window for just a second I saw silhouettes moving. Men and women in torn party clothes. Faces burned, drifting through the kitchen as if still searching for the exit they never found. Then everything went dark inside. I never saw Ray again. Police said he probably ran off, got lost in the woods behind the lot. They searched for days, found nothing. Marissa quit the same week I did. They reopened the place under new management a month later. Fresh paint, new equipment, the works. Nobody talks about the fire alarms that go off around 2 a.m. every few nights, or the voices still calling through the drive-through headset asking for room 12. I pass that Taco Bell sometimes on my way to work. The lights always seem a little too dim, the parking lot always empty. But every time I stop at the red light out front, I can swear I smell it again. Smoke, grease, and something older. And I remember the whisper that followed me out into the rain that night. Checkout time. I never thought a fast food job could feel like a trap until the night I started working the late shift at Lone Oak Taco Bell. I wasn't desperate exactly, but I was broke enough to swallow my pride. College hadn't given me much beyond a degree. That read like a polite suggestion for unemployment. My parents had long since stopped calling to ask if I was okay, and most of my friends had drifted toward lives that made mine feel hollow. I moved into a tiny studio above a laundromat, the kind of place where the pipes groaned at all hours and the walls were thin enough to catch snippets of arguments from neighbors you never wanted to meet. That first night, the fluorescent lights of the Taco Bell interior felt both comforting and sterile. The smell of fried food was cloying, and the hum of the soda machines behind the counter reminded me that I was now one of the background noises of this town. My manager, Tony, a stocky guy with a permanent 5 o'clock shadow, had welcomed me with a terse handshake. "Don't touch the safe unless I'm here, and keep the doors locked after midnight, that's it." I nodded, already sensing that "that's it" meant there was plenty he didn't say. I spent the first hour watching the occasional stragglers shuffle through the doors, half-drunk teenagers or night shift workers grabbing a burrito to warm their stomachs. The monotony was almost meditative. Then came the first knock of tension. A car door slammed in the empty parking lot outside, echoing like a gunshot. I glanced up, half expecting a customer, half expecting... I wasn't sure. Nothing happened. I shook it off. It was a small town. These noises were normal. The real trouble started around 1:15 a.m. A woman walked in, heavy coat, glasses reflecting the overhead lights, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched her purse. She didn't look around. She just marched straight to the counter, eyes fixed on the menu above. Behind her, 3 teenagers, loud, obnoxious, chaotic, entered in a rush of laughter and shoved the door with enough force that it slammed into the wall. I knew trouble when I saw it. One of them, a tall kid with an unnatural shock of neon blue hair, elbowed past the woman without even a glance. "Move it, old lady," he sneered. His friends formed a loose wall behind him, grinning like predators. The woman's head snapped up from her phone, her voice sharp and trembling. "Excuse me, there's a line, young man." He rolled his eyes, clearly expecting me to intervene. "Relax, lady. We're just trying to get some food," he said, shrugging as if the world owed him civility. The woman's face tightened. "You don't just cut in front of people. Not here, not anywhere." The air snapped, thick with tension. I fumbled behind the register, unsure whether to say something or call it in. Before I could react, the woman reached into her purse. She pulled out a small canister and sprayed it directly at the blue-haired boy. His scream pierced the quiet. Hum of the fryer and the other kids stumbled back, hacking and coughing. The pungent, acrid smell of pepper spray filled the room. "Jesus! Someone call the cops!" I shouted, my hand shaking as I grabbed my phone. Chairs scraped across the tile as a few late-night regulars scrambled for the doors. The woman didn't stop. Her eyes burned with rage, her voice high and trembling. "They can't just do whatever they want. I have rights. I'll defend myself." Tony came bursting from the back, face red, eyes wide. "Ma'am, step away from the counter." But she waved the canister like a weapon, advancing slightly, almost daring him to come closer. The situation felt like it was straddling the edge of chaos and disaster. I stood frozen, watching the boys collapse near the soda machine, their eyes watering, coughing, gagging. I could feel my own eyes sting, my throat burning from just standing too close. When the police arrived, it felt like some surreal dream. Blue and red lights flickered across the walls. The woman shouted her rights and struggled as they restrained her. I gave my statement in a voice I didn't recognize as mine, trembling the entire time. The aftermath was something I couldn't have imagined. Chairs overturned, napkins scattered across the floor, the smell of chemicals clinging to every surface. People whispered as they came in, pointing to the exact spot where it happened. I cleaned the counters mechanically, each swipe of a rag feeling useless, as if trying to erase an image burned into my memory. Weeks passed, and the story became a legend in town. The pepper spray lady at Lone Oak Taco Bell. Every time the door opened after that, I flinched, half expecting chaos to erupt again. Sleep became difficult. Every creak of the pipes above my studio felt like footsteps in my room. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd internalized some of that rage, some of that madness, and now it followed me home. I tried to distract myself. I memorized the routine of the night shift. Fryer on, soda machine humming, trash emptied, orders taken. The monotony was supposed to be comforting, but sometimes, late at night, I would catch movement in the reflection of the glass doors, or a shadow crossing the empty parking lot. I'd tell myself it was cars passing or trees moving in the wind, but the dread in my chest refused to listen. Marcus, a co-worker with a dry sense of humor and a quiet demeanor, tried to talk me down once. "It's just people being dumb. Happens all the time. You can't let it get in your head." "Easy for you to say," I muttered. "You weren't sprayed in the face with that stuff. You didn't have to watch them scream." "I still think you're overreacting," he said, but his eyes betrayed a shadow of worry. I realized then that he had seen too much himself, just buried it better than I had. Days bled into nights, and every shift felt heavier than the last. A subtle paranoia crept into my mind. Every customer became a potential threat. Every bag clutched a possible weapon. I found myself scanning the parking lot from the counter, counting cars, noticing who lingered too long near the doors. It was exhausting, and yet I couldn't stop. Then came the hallucinations, subtle at first. A flash of movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow that wasn't there. The smell of pepper spray lingering long after the store was cleaned. I'd shake my head, rub my eyes, try to focus, but the fear clung to me like a second skin. Maya, another night shifter, noticed my twitchiness one evening. "You okay?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, but I could see her concern. "Yeah, just tired," I lied. But even as I said it, I knew it was more than that. Sleep didn't feel safe anymore. My dreams were fragmented, chaotic. Screams, choking, someone spraying something sharp and burning. I'd wake up in a sweat, heart pounding, convinced the store was behind me, still in session. It got worse. One night around 2 a.m., a car pulled into the lot, engine idling. I froze. The lone occupant sat motionless, staring straight at the doors. My hands gripped the counter so tightly I thought I might break the plastic edges. Minutes passed like hours. Eventually, the car drove away, but the sense of being watched lingered. I started keeping a tally of safe nights versus tense nights in my head. I counted customers, scanned every entrance, double-checked the doors. The paranoia became ritualistic, and yet it gave me a fragile sense of control. Daniel, another coworker, tried to make light of it one night. "Man, you're wound tighter than the springs in that old soda machine." I didn't laugh. "It's not funny, you don't understand." "Maybe not," he said, shrugging. "But freaking out won't stop anyone from being crazy either." His words stuck with me, though they didn't comfort me. I couldn't stop imagining someone else walking in with the same rage, the same unpredictability. My mind replayed that night over and over, each time exaggerating the terror. It was no longer about actual danger. It was the memory, the fear, the absolute helplessness that haunted me. Even outside work, the paranoia followed me. Grocery stores, gas stations, even walking down the quiet streets at night. Everywhere I went, my mind played out scenarios where chaos erupted from nowhere. Friends stopped asking me to hang out. My parents barely noticed I existed. I was isolated with my fear, and it became a part of me. I stepped out onto the cracked asphalt behind my apartment, keys in hand, squinting up at the peach glow bleeding out from beneath the storm clouds. The city had that post-rain chill, the kind that soaks through your jeans and makes everything shine a little meaner. I could still hear the echo of the DJ's final track pulsing behind my ribcage. Club music always clung for a while after nights like this. My sister Lila, always 3 steps ahead or behind but never beside, skipped to the curb in her sparkly boots, hair a mess of midnight curls. "You're driving, Jess," she declared, tossing her phone into my hands without looking back. Her purse banged against her leg, stuffed tight enough to carry only a fraction of her grudges. As I unlocked the battered Honda, Lila tucked a strand behind her ear and gave me that sideways look, a look that said, "I know something you don't." I rolled my eyes. "Are we seriously doing Taco Bueno?" Here in Kansas City, Taco Bueno was tradition, greasy, open late, the kind of place you craved after vodka sodas and bad decisions. "Of course," she smirked. "We never do late-night burritos anymore since you got responsible." I buckled in, adjusted the seat, and with the low growl of an engine that had seen better days, we set off into the glimmering streets. As we passed Sycamore and Lakewood, old neighborhood streets clustered with sagging duplexes and boarded-up shops, Lila was quiet. Not scrolling, not complaining. She just sat back, letting her boots knock against the dash. The club was 4 miles behind us when I said, "You barely drank tonight, you know. You don't have to pretend." She pulled her lip into her teeth and looked out the window. "Sometimes I just want to feel wild without the booze. You ever feel like that?" Her tone was a soft Midwest drawl, with the faintest hitch that made everything sound like half a confession. The Taco Bueno on Olson Avenue sat at the edge of a strip mall, its neon sign flickering so fast it seemed like the bee was about to blink out. The lot was nearly full. Late-night eaters slouched in their cars, headlights painting ghost faces on the cheap plastic letters above the entrance. We rolled up to the drive-thru and joined the sluggish procession of cars. 3 ahead of us, engines idling, drivers craning for their turn. A black Dodge Challenger sat right in front. I caught the reflection of a couple inside, their laughter like a spill of light through the open window. Lila groaned and stretched. "This'll take half a year." I shrugged. "We're not in a rush, are we?" She stared at the Dodge, then at me. "You could always give them a little nudge." Her voice, syrupy and strange, sent a chill across my neck. I slammed my foot on the brake. "Are you nuts?" I laughed, trying to keep it light, but my voice shook. She grinned, her teeth glowing under the neon. "Imagine, though. What would they even do? Blame us? People around here don't fight anymore." I ignored her and flipped through the radio stations, settling on one where the DJ's laughter sounded too forced. She suddenly punched my arm, harder than I expected. The sting surprised me, but I remembered. Lila was a fighter even when she was pretending not to be. "Don't be a baby," she whispered. This was the thing about Lila. 2 years older, sharper than she looked. We'd always been tangled, me the steady one, her the storm. But after Dad left us with bills and a box of Polaroids, she changed, started watching weird horror movies at midnight, learned to sew, learned to run. I glanced over. The sour note between us had started in January when I fell for Wyatt, her ex. Everyone said she'd moved on, but some people don't. Some people let their wounds rot until they bloom into something else. We never talked about it, not really. Just let it fester, like an old injury. She sighed, louder this time, and yanked the wheel toward her. My foot skipped off the brake. The car lunged forward. I barely stopped an inch from tapping the Challenger's bumper. A man in the Challenger twisted around, his eyes coal black in the mirror. He stared straight at us, suspicion written in the furrow of his brows. I managed a sheepish wave, hoping he'd just keep looking ahead. Lila slouched, pretending not to have almost sent us both to hell. Behind, the low hum of a pickup truck's engine warned me we were now boxed in. Truck at our rear, Challenger in front, concrete wall to the right. Nothing but scrubby bushes and a busted parking light to the left. Lila finally looked at me, awake and sharp, not a trace of her earlier drawl. Guess we're stuck. I tried the window switch, but the mechanism whined uselessly. It's fine, I muttered, but my heart galloped. She dug through her purse and with a flourish produced a silver crochet hook, a weird relic from her TikTok sewing hauls. Her lips quirked up. Ever feel trapped, Jess? Her voice twisted on my name, dark and sugar-sweet. I stayed calm. Lila, what are you doing? She traced the crochet hook along her wrist, then held it like a wand. Shadows danced across her knuckles. You ever think about karma? Lila whispered, her voice coiled tight. I said nothing. She took a deep breath. Why'd you go after Wyatt, Jess, out of everyone? My insides soured. You broke up with him, months ago. We ran into each other. It just happened. That's not good enough, is it? Her grip tightened on the crochet hook, the tip glinting under the overhead lights. Seriously, Lila, put that away. She pointed it at my neck, her hand steady now, eyes burning. I could make you bleed, you know. Wouldn't even have to try. A tremor raced through me. Stop it. She pressed the tip just barely against my throat. My skin was cold with sweat. You always get what you want, even when it's mine. Silent seconds hung between us as rain hammered against the roof. Lila, please. My voice cracked. Please just talk to me, not at me. But she laughed, razor thin and smiling. No one's watching, Jess. No one ever is. Someone in the Challenger leaned out the window, eyeing us through the side view mirror. I locked eyes with him, desperate. Lila drew a tiny bead of blood with the hook. Just a glint, nothing fatal, but enough to make my heart leap. I closed my eyes. Years of yoga classes flashed through my head. Inhale, exhale, press out the panic. Slowly, measuring every motion, I reached for her wrist. Before I could grip her, she jerked sideways, and the hook clattered to the floor mat. My breath shuddered. I slammed my heel onto the hook, pinning it beneath my boot. In the next second, she fumbled for her purse and yanked out a second hook, this one longer, hunting knife sharp. I shot her a look, wild and terrified. Are you out of your mind? I hissed. She jabbed the air in front of my cheek. Are you going to break up with Wyatt, or am I going to do something really, really stupid right now? No one knows we're here. You get that, right? I stared at the truck behind us. Its headlights flashed as the driver scrolled his phone. The city sparkled beyond the lot, so close and yet hopelessly far from anyone who would care. The drive-thru moved. The Challenger inched forward. My body thawed just enough. I slammed both hands onto Lila's arm, twisting her hard. The hook snapped from her grip and skittered between the seats. She reeled, elbowing me in the ribs. I loved him, Jess. He was never yours. Her voice screeched, ugly and animal. She wriggled free, her sobs wet and choking. You always take and take. A sharp knock rattled my window. The Challenger's passenger, a woman younger, her rain-spiked hair plastered to her face, stood inches from the glass. "Hey, you okay in there?" she called. "We heard screaming." But Lila pulled her coat around her, wiping the snot from her nose. Her voice was flat, clear. "We're just drunk. Girls' night." Her laughter was bright and brittle. The woman lingered, uncertain. I pressed my face to the window, pleading with my eyes for help. But the woman shrugged, muttered, "Take care then," and stepped back into the rain. Lila's anger evaporated. She settled into her seat, breath hitching, tears streaking her makeup. "You win," she whispered. "I just wanted you to notice me. Like, all the way. For once." My whole body buzzed as the weight of what almost happened settled over us. The drive-through line jolted forward again, and the pickup edged even closer behind. In the hush, as rain gathered on the windshield and the radio hummed a mindless pop song, Lila sniffled. "Can you just order for me now? I want a crunch wrap." I nodded, voice numb. "Yeah, got it." We pulled up to the speaker. My hands trembled as I ordered food neither of us was hungry for. The storm rolled on, washing the city clean while hunger twisted itself, quietly, into another kind of ache. I swear my life is a series of bad decisions connected by fluorescent lighting. My name is Leo, and this is the story of how a 5.49 box meal nearly ended me. It started with a text. 3 years with Maya, and it all ended with a paragraph on my phone screen. "I just need to find myself. Leo, you're holding me back." The silence in my apartment after I read it was a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. By 10:37 p.m. I couldn't take it. I needed noise, grease, anything to shock my system back to life. That's how I ended up at the Taco Bell on Route 9. It was a relic. Its purple and teal sign faded, the light in the B flickering like a distress signal. The lot was empty. Perfect. I pulled up to the drive-through speaker. "Yeah, a cheesy gordita crunch, a beefy crunch burrito, and a crunch wrap supreme. The Crave box and a large Baja Blast." "Pull around," a tired voice crackled. The window slid open. A kid named Jax, his visor crooked, handed me the warm, greasy bag. "Rough night, dude?" "You have no idea," I mumbled, handing him a 10. "Keep the change." His eyes widened. "Whoa, thanks, man." "Hey, you be safe out there." I grunted and pulled into a spot near the dumpsters, killing the engine. The silence rushed back in. I tore into the bag, the crinkle of paper loud in the quiet car. I went straight for the crunch wrap, my go-to, a perfect hexagon of comfort. The first bite was glorious. The second bite, something crunched wrong. It wasn't the clean snap of the tostada shell. It was softer, wet. I froze, my jaw clenched. A cold dread entirely separate from my heartbreak trickled down my spine. I slowly pulled the crunch wrap away and looked at the bite mark in the dim dashboard glow. Embedded in the beef and cheese was a fingernail. A real human fingernail, small, dirty, with a ragged edge. I spat the mouthful into the bag, gagging. I threw the crunch wrap onto the passenger seat like it was a live spider. "What the hell?" I whispered. Disgust turned to rage. This was a lawsuit. I grabbed the evidence and marched to the lobby door. Locked. Jax was inside, mopping. I banged on the glass. He jumped, his face pale. He shook his head and pointed at the lobby closed sign. "Let me in." "Look at this," I yelled, holding up the crunch wrap. He didn't look sorry. He looked scared. "Go away, man, just go." "Are you kidding me? There's a fingernail in this." He backed away, dropped his mop, and fled into the kitchen. I was left alone, holding the thing. My anger curdled into fear. They knew. A rhythmic thump, thump, thump started from behind the building. It was too steady. Too deliberate. Flight instinct kicked in. I turned to go back to my car. My driver's side door was open. I was sure I'd closed it. I approached slowly. The dome light was on. On the driver's seat, laid out perfectly flat, was a soft flour tortilla. In its center was a neat pile of shredded lettuce and a single black olive, staring up like a sightless eye. My blood went cold. Someone had been in my car. I snatched the tortilla, crumpled it, and threw it on the ground. I slid in, locked the doors, and peeled out of the lot, not looking back. After 5 minutes, I tried to rationalize it. A sick joke. A messed up kid. I just needed to get home. Stopped at a red light, I glanced at the passenger seat floor. I reached for the bag to toss it, but my fingers brushed against something cold. Sitting upright on the seat was a hard taco shell. It was stuffed with dark wet earth and tangled roots. A white pebble sat on top. I swerved, gasping. The shell tipped over, spilling dirt on the upholstery. No, 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 I stammered. The doors were locked. I was moving. How? I sped the rest of the way home, screeched into a parking spot, and sprinted for my apartment door. I fumbled with the keys, fell inside, and slammed the door shut, engaging the deadbolt. I leaned against it, chest heaving. Safe. I went to the kitchen sink and dumped the entire bag, the dirt, everything into it. I turned on the garbage disposal. It roared, grinding the evidence into nothing. I stood there, gripping the counter, waiting for the adrenaline to fade. That's when I noticed the smell, the familiar, spicy scent of Taco Bell beef. It was faint, then stronger. It was coming from my bedroom. I walked slowly down the hall. The smell was overpowering. My bedroom door was ajar. I pushed it open. On my bed, laid out neatly on the comforter, was a full, untouched Nachos Bel Grande. A choked sound escaped my lips. I stumbled back. I flicked on the light. The nachos were there. But now, someone had taken a single, face-first bite from the center of the pile, and on my light gray comforter were reddish-brown smudges that looked like fingerprints. I backed out, my mind screaming. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a cast-iron skillet. I swept the apartment. Nothing. The doors and windows were locked. I stood in the living room, my back to a wall. My eyes fell on the dark TV screen. Reflected in it was a figure standing in the hallway. It was tall and thin, wearing a stained Taco Bell uniform. The visor was pulled low, shadowing its face. Its hands were wrong, fingers too long, nails ragged and dirty. I whipped around. The hallway was empty. I looked back at the TV. The reflection was gone. A soft, wet chewing sound came from the kitchen. Squelch. Crunch. I was paralyzed. The chewing stopped. A guttural, thick voice echoed from the kitchen. "You didn't finish your meal," I screamed. I tore open the front door and ran. I ran barefoot in my t-shirt and sweatpants until I collapsed on a bus stop bench miles away. A police car found me. I tried to explain, my words a frantic jumble. They took me back to my apartment. The door was wide open. The smell was gone. The bed was made. The sink was clean. There was no evidence. They gave me pitying looks, suggested stress, and left. I was alone again. I wedged a chair under the doorknob and sat on the couch with the skillet, waiting for dawn. The sun rose. The world felt normal again. Maybe it was a breakdown. That was a better explanation. I needed my phone from my car. I peered outside. My car sat there looking innocent. I moved the chair, unlocked the door, and walked to my car. I opened the driver's side door. The interior smelled faintly of earth. On the dashboard was a torn-open packet of Diablo sauce. The bright red sauce was smeared on the inside of my windshield. Spelling out 2 words, "Finish it." I didn't. I never went back. I left my life behind and moved across the country. I heard that Taco Bell closed down a year later. Health code violations, they said. I know the truth. I don't know what it was, but I know it's still out there, in the dead space between midnight and morning, in the flicker of a failing light. It gets hungry, and it really, really hates it when you waste food. I never planned to end up working nights at a Taco Bell in Flagstaff, Arizona. When I graduated high school 2 years ago, I told myself I'd move somewhere bigger, maybe Phoenix, maybe LA, but life doesn't always play out like the dreams you make at 18. Rent's high, jobs are scarce, and my mom's medical bills stacked faster than I could count. So I stayed. I'd been at this Taco Bell for about 7 months, mostly covering late shifts because I didn't mind the quiet. Less customers, less chaos, fewer managers breathing down my neck. The store sat at the edge of town beside a dusty highway exit, the kind of place where truckers stopped for gas and drunks crawled in after midnight for tacos they'd forget they ate. My shift started at 6 p.m. and ran until 2 a.m. There were usually just 3 of us. Me, Jasmine at the drive-thru, and Carlos, our shift lead. Carlos was one of those guys who'd seen everything. Tattoos creeping up his neck, voice rough like gravel, but with a heart that actually cared. Jasmine was new, still nervous around the headset, always apologizing even when she didn't need to. That Wednesday started like any other. The sunset burned orange behind the mountains, and the smell of fryer oil and seasoned beef filled the air the moment I stepped inside. The dining area was nearly empty. 2 college kids staring at their phones and an old man nursing a soda by the window. Yo, Tyler, Carlos called from the back, tossing me a pair of gloves. You on grill tonight? Jasmine's got drive-through. Try not to burn the chalupas again, aight? I smirked. That was one time. Yeah, and my nose still remembers. He laughed, slapping the prep table. Let's make it through tonight without catching fire, cool? I shrugged and started prepping the line. Music hummed softly from the Bluetooth speaker, some pop song that felt too happy for a Wednesday night shift. For the first few hours, everything ran smooth. Orders came in steady, no drama, no weird customers. Around 11:30 p.m., a storm rolled in. The kind where the desert air turns electric and the sky bruises purple before splitting open with rain. The wind howled against the drive-through windows, rattling the metal trash bins outside. Carlos sighed. Man, that's gonna scare away half the customers. Good, I said. Less work. He chuckled and disappeared into the back office to finish inventory, leaving me and Jasmine up front. By midnight, we were dead quiet. No cars in the lot, no voices, just the hum of the refrigerators and the rhythmic slap of rain on the roof. Jasmine leaned on the counter, staring at the parking lot lights flickering through the storm. This place creeps me out when it gets this quiet. It's just the weather, I said. Place always feels weird when it rains. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Then the drive-through headset crackled. A long burst of static hissed through before a voice, low, almost whispering, came through. Y'all open? Jasmine jumped slightly. Yeah, we're open till 2, she said into the mic. What can I get for you tonight? Silence, then the same voice, deeper this time. You sure about that? She frowned, glancing at me. I mouthed, probably a prank. Yes, sir. We're definitely open. Would you like to place an order? More static, then a distorted laugh, short, dry, like air through a broken speaker. The headset went dead. She took it off. Okay, that was creepy. I forced a grin. Probably some drunk dude messing with us. But when I looked out through the drive-through window, I noticed something. The parking lot was empty. No headlights, no cars, nothing but sheets of rain under the flickering lights. See? I said. Nobody there. She nodded slowly and tried to laugh it off, but I could tell it stuck with her. The next 30 minutes crawled. Carlos stayed in the back, cursing at the printer while Jasmine and I restocked sauce packets and napkins. The storm outside only got worse. At 12:47 a.m., the front door chime went off. We both froze. No one was supposed to come in that late. The dining area closes at midnight. Drive-through only after that. Maybe Carlos forgot to lock it, I said. Wiping my hands, I stepped out from behind the counter. The lights in the dining room flickered once, just enough to make the shadows stretch long across the tile. Hello? I called out. We're drive-through only, man. You gotta use the window. No answer. But then, from the far left corner, I saw movement. A man stood near the soda fountain. He was dripping wet, hood pulled low, dark jacket soaked through, water puddling at his feet. He didn't move toward me, just stood there facing the drink machine like he was staring through it. Sir? I said. We're closed inside. You'll have to use the drive-through. Nothing. I stepped a bit closer, my shoes squeaking on the wet floor. Hey, you hear me? You can't be in here. He slowly turned his head toward me. His eyes caught the dim fluorescent light, wide, glassy, unblinking. I stopped cold. There was something off about him. Not just the stare, but his stillness. Like every muscle in his body was locked except for his neck. Carlos, I shouted. Someone's in the lobby. Footsteps thundered from the back. Carlos burst through the door, eyes narrowing as he saw the man. Sir, store's closed. Gonna have to head out. The man didn't respond. Carlos approached, his tone firm. You need me to call someone for you? The guy tilted his head slightly. Then he whispered something, voice so low I barely caught it. They don't let you leave, do they? What? Carlos asked, taking a cautious step closer. The man smiled, barely, just a twitch at the corner of his mouth, then turned and walked toward the bathroom hallway. Carlos sighed. Man, hell no, he muttered, following him. Wait, don't... I started, but he was already around the corner. A few seconds passed. The hum of the fryers seemed louder now. Jasmine whispered, What's happening? I don't know, I said. Then we heard it, a slam, followed by Carlos yelling, Hey, you can't... And then silence. I grabbed a spatula, it was all I had, and moved toward the hallway. The bathroom lights flickered. The door to the men's room was shut, but I could see something. A trail of water leading under the door. Carlos? No answer. I pushed the door open slowly. The light inside buzzed weakly, reflecting off the soaked tiles. The stalls were all closed. Carlos, man, you in here? Drip, drip, I turned toward the sinks. Water ran steadily from one faucet pooling on the counter. I reached to shut it off, and that's when I noticed it. On the mirror, written in streaks of condensation, were 3 words. He never left. I stumbled back, heart pounding. Carlos! Something rattled behind me, a stall door creaking. I spun around. The far stall door slowly opened an inch, then another. Inside, nothing but shadows. I bolted out. Jasmine screamed when she saw me. Where's Carlos? She cried. I don't know. He's gone. Gone? I grabbed my phone. We're calling the cops. She nodded, hands trembling as she unlocked her own phone. But before she could dial, the power flickered and went out. The entire store plunged into darkness. For a moment, all we could hear was the rain hammering the roof and the beep of the backup freezer alarm. Then, the drive-through bell chimed. Ding. Someone had pulled up. Jasmine whispered, Tyler. No way, I muttered. There's no cars out there. But the bell rang again. I grabbed the flashlight from the counter and pointed it toward the window. Through the rain-smeared glass, I saw him, the same man. Standing at the drive-through window. No car, just standing there in the rain, his soaked hood plastered to his face. He raised his hand slowly and pressed it against the glass. His fingers left wet streaks as he dragged them downward. I took a step back. We're calling the cops right now, I said, fumbling for my phone again. Then we heard a door slam in the back, the rear delivery door. Jasmine screamed. I spun the flashlight toward the kitchen just in time to see a shadow move past the freezer. Come on, I said, grabbing her wrist. We're getting out of here. We sprinted for the front door, but when I yanked the handle, it didn't budge, locked. Carlos must have locked it earlier. I shouted, then what do we do? Back door. We turned and ran through the kitchen, slipping on the wet tiles. The flashlight beam shook wildly as I tried to keep it steady. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us, slow, deliberate, wet. We reached the back hall. The delivery door loomed ahead, red exit sign glowing faintly above it. But when I reached for the latch, it was chained shut from the inside. What the hell? Tyler, Jasmine whispered, pointing. I turned. At the far end of the hallway, standing just beyond the dim light, was the man. Still soaked, still silent. He tilted his head, water dripping from his hood, and spoke in that same dry whisper. They keep it locked for a reason. I didn't wait. I yanked Jasmine toward the storage room and slammed the door behind us. We crouched between shelves of napkins and sauce boxes, both gasping for breath. What does he mean, they keep it locked? She whispered. I don't know, I said. But we're calling 911, no signal. The storm had killed it. Minutes crawled by. Every creak of the building made my stomach twist tighter. Then faintly we heard it, someone dragging something across the tiles outside the door. A wet scrape. Then a knock. 3 slow knocks. Tyler, Jasmine whimpered. I raised a finger to my lips. The knocks stopped. Silence stretched until it hurt. Then a voice, his voice, spoke softly through the door. He was still in here when they closed last time. I swallowed hard. Who was? No answer, just a whisper. You'll see. The doorknob twisted. I held it shut, pressing my weight against it. Stay quiet, I hissed. After a moment, the pressure stopped. Then another sound, a low hum, almost electrical, began to fill the air. Jasmine clamped her hands over her ears. What is that? It grew louder, vibrating through the floor. The lights flickered once, twice, and suddenly the power snapped back on. The hum cut off. I opened the door just an inch. The hallway was empty. No man, no Carlos. Just wet footprints leading toward the freezer. We crept forward, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. When we reached the walk-in, the metal handle glistened with moisture. I pushed it open. Inside, the air was freezing, and Carlos was there. He stood motionless in the corner, eyes wide open, frost forming on his lashes. Carlos! I shouted, rushing toward him. He blinked slowly, like waking from a dream. He said he wanted the same order as last time. He murmured. What? What order? The one that never ended. His knees buckled. I caught him as he fell, his body cold as ice. We dragged him out, but before we could even process what happened, the front lights flickered again. On the main monitor near the counter, the security feed flicked through each camera, the lobby, the kitchen, the drive-thru. Every screen showed the same thing, the man, standing motionless, staring, directly into the camera. But on the last feed, camera 7 facing the storage room, we saw ourselves. Me, Jasmine, and Carlos. Standing there, except we weren't moving. We were frozen in place, eyes wide, just like him. Jasmine screamed and pulled the plug on the monitor. The screen went black. We didn't stay to figure out what it meant. We carried Carlos out the side, emergency exit, the alarm blaring as we stumbled into the rain. By the time the cops arrived, the man was gone. They searched the place top to bottom. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, nothing. They said maybe it was a vagrant, maybe a prank, maybe the storm messed with our heads. But the cameras told another story. When they reviewed the footage later, they saw something impossible. The man didn't enter from any door. He just appeared. One frame empty, the next frame, he was there. They never found him. Carlos quit the next day. Jasmine transferred to another store 2 towns over. I stayed 1 more week, just long enough to collect my paycheck. On my last night, as I closed up, alone, I heard the headset crackle. Static. Then a voice I'll never forget. Same order as last time. I ripped the headset off and threw it across the floor. When I left, the storm had cleared, but the pavement was still slick with rain. As I walked to my car, I glanced at the glass doors one last time. There, reflected faintly in the light, someone stood inside, a dark figure by the counter, still, watching. I didn't wait to look twice. I drove home and never went back. To this day, that Taco Bell still runs 24 hours. But every few months, employees report hearing the headset crackle with that same static voice. And sometimes, on rainy nights, customers swear they see someone standing behind the counter long after closing. No one ever gets a good look at him. But everyone who does says the same thing. He's soaking wet and smiling.